My name is Rachel Morgan. I'm 33 years old, and the night I watched my own mother try to steal my house out from under me, I wasn't even in the house. I was sitting in my car outside a Chili's parking lot in Columbus, Ohio, watching it all happen on my phone. Security camera feed, Bluetooth audio feeding their voices directly into my ears. My mother's laugh, my brother's voice, the sound of a pen scratching across paper that had my name printed on it. They thought I was at a mandatory work conference in Chicago. They didn't know I'd finally stopped being their exhausted, overworked, over-responsible daughter and started being someone willing to protect herself. This is the story of how my family used me like a 24/7 ATM, free nanny, unpaid therapist, and emergency fund. How they tried to sign away my house while I was out of town, and how I turned everything around, kept every penny that was mine, and walked away from people who thought my love meant unlimited access. If you've ever felt like the strong one, the educated one, the responsible one that everyone leans on until you break, this story is for you. The camera angle is slightly crooked, aimed down at my own granite kitchen island. A stack of papers, my mother's hand, a man's navy sleeve, a ballpoint pen. I'm in my Honda Civic, engine off, parked under a flickering parking lot light. It's one of those random Tuesday nights in October where the air is just cold enough that your breath shows. My phone is propped up on the steering wheel. On the screen, the live feed from the indoor camera I told my family was just for when I travel for work. On the audio, my mother's voice, soft and syrupy. "It's basically already Rachel's signature," she says. "She signs like this all the time, and she owes us. She wouldn't even have this house if we didn't let her live here after college." The man in the navy sleeve, some real estate consultant my brother found on Facebook, slides a document across the island. "Quitclaim deed," he says. "Once this is filed, title transfers out of her name and into the LLC. From there, we can refinance and pull cash out. Easy." I watch my brother Ethan lean on the counter like this is all no big deal. He's 29, in a faded Browns hoodie, hair messy, looking like he just rolled out of bed. My mother is in her nice sweatshirt, the one she wears when she thinks she might run into someone from church. They're inside my house, the house I worked overtime for, the house I sacrificed vacations, dinners out, and any semblance of a social life to afford. On the screen, Ethan reaches for a pen. In my car, something inside me goes molten and cold at the same time. I say it out loud, even though no one can hear me. "Okay," I whisper. "Go ahead. Do it. I dare you." Because what they don't know, what they never considered because they've never bothered to take me seriously, is that I've spent the last 6 months of my life preparing for this moment. I have copies of every text where they guilt-tripped me about money, proof of every Venmo request they never repaid, emails from my mom literally saying, "You're such a good daughter, you'll always take care of us," and now recorded video of them attempting to sign a deed that doesn't belong to them. I've also got something else they didn't plan on: a lawyer who believes me, a therapist who told me I'm allowed to let people face consequences, and a backbone that only snapped into place when I finally realized, if I don't protect myself from my own family, no one will. Before I show you how I got here, how I went from overworked, people-pleasing oldest daughter to the woman who let her own mother walk into a legal trap, I need to go back, Because this didn't start with a forged deed. It started years ago, with a Target run. I grew up in a little rental house just outside Dayton, Ohio, off a busy road with a McDonald's on one corner and a payday loan place on the other. I was the oldest of three. Me, Rachel, the good girl, straight-A student, chronic helper. Ethan, charming, funny, allergic to responsibility. Lily, the baby, gentle and anxious, always trying to keep the peace. My parents were the kind of people who could swing from, "we're a team," to, "the world owes us," in the space of one unpaid bill. Some of my earliest memories are of money conversations that weren't meant for kids' ears. "They can't repossess the car if we hide it in your sister's driveway." "We'll just float the electric bill until next month." "We'll use the credit card for groceries. God will provide." When I was 9, my mom would send me into the gas station with a $20 bill and a script. "Ask if they can put $5 on pump 3 and give you the rest in cash." When I was 13, she handed me the phone to argue with the cable company. "You're better with words, honey. You talk to them." By 16, I knew how to negotiate a late fee, set up a payment plan, and juggle due dates on a wall calendar covered in different colored highlighters. I also learned a dangerous lesson. If I step up, everything gets calmer. If I say no, the whole house falls apart. So I stepped up, over and over, until it became my entire personality. The first big ask, senior year of high school, I got into Ohio State. Partial scholarship. The rest was loans and work study. My parents threw a cookout to celebrate. Burgers, paper plates, red Solo cups. Everyone said the same things. "First one in the family to go to college." "You're gonna save us, Rach." "Our little lawyer in the making." For the record, I am not a lawyer. I got a degree in marketing and work as a digital project manager, but the fantasy that I would become the family lawyer was strong. 2 weeks before I left for Columbus, my dad walked into my room holding a stack of papers. "Princess, can you help us with something?" He sat on the edge of my bed, handed me a pen, and slid over a Parent Plus loan document. "You're 18 now. They said if you co-sign, we can get a better rate." Something in my stomach twisted. "Is this for my tuition?" I asked. He looked away. "It's for some back stuff we're catching up on. But it's all the same pot, you know? Money is money. We wouldn't ask if we weren't desperate." My mom appeared in the doorway, eyes already wet. "We just want you to be able to focus on school," she said. "We'll handle this. You won't even notice it." I signed, because that's what I did. Because I was 18 and they were my parents. Because saying no felt like betrayal, and saying yes felt like love. I wish I could say that was the last time. It was the first of many. College. Freedom with strings attached. In Columbus, I discovered things like roommates who paid their share of utilities, people who had savings accounts just in case, and the shocking concept of boundaries, friends who told their parents, "I can't afford that," and weren't disowned for it. I worked at a coffee shop near campus, pulled 20 to 25 hours a week, went to classes, studied, and tried not to think about the debt quietly accruing in my name. Every time I'd go home for breaks, there would be a new crisis. The car died, the landlord's raising the rent, the hospital sent another bill. And every time, there was the same script. "You're so good with money. Can we put this on your card and then we'll pay you back? You know we'd do it for you." They never did pay me back, but they always remembered the part about me being so good with money, like it was a moral obligation for me to fix their messes. By the time I graduated and landed my first job at a digital agency in Columbus, Here's what my finances looked like: $48,000 in student loans, $18,000 in Parent Plus loans I hadn't realized were partially in my name, about $3,500 on a credit card, mostly used for emergencies that had my parents' fingerprints all over them. And still, when I got my first real paycheck and proudly showed my mom the direct deposit, she said, "Look at you, our little retirement plan." She laughed when she said it, but it didn't feel like a joke. The house that changed everything. I didn't plan to buy a house at 30. No one in my family had ever owned anything more permanent than a used car. But after 8 years of grinding, promotions, side gigs, taking every freelance social media job I could find, I had a decent salary, a 401k, a credit score good enough that the bank actually smiled when they looked at my file. I wasn't rich. I was tired and careful and boring, which, in this economy, is basically a superpower. My then-boyfriend and I had just broken up. I was sick of throwing money at rent and watching my building's owner remodel everything except my thermostat. On a random Sunday, I went on a Zillow spiral and fell in love with a small 3-bedroom bungalow on the east side of Columbus. White siding, a little front porch, a tired but solid kitchen, and a tiny patch of yard where I could imagine sitting with coffee on Saturday mornings, not sharing walls with anyone. The asking price was terrifying, but the mortgage calculator said it would be less than my rent. I ran numbers all night. I made a spreadsheet. I calculated to the dollar what I could afford if I cut out takeout and did my own nails. I went to see it on Tuesday, made an offer on Thursday, signed the papers 3 weeks later. The day I closed, my mom cried. "My baby bought a house," she said, hugging me in the parking lot. "I never thought any of us would get out of renting. You're so blessed. This is our house. Our family finally has something." Our house. She said it like she'd signed the mortgage, too. At the time, I told myself she just meant our in the sentimental sense. I didn't know then how literal she would try to make that word. At first, having my family over felt nice. We did Sunday dinners. I'd make spaghetti or order pizza. My mom would bring a salad. Ethan would show up late with a 6-pack and some wild story about his latest business idea. They'd ooh and ah over my countertops, tell me how proud they were, joke about who would get which room when we're old and you have to take care of us. I'd laugh it off. "You guys are not moving in here," I'd say. "I love you, but absolutely not." Everyone laughed. Everyone remembered. Crisis number 1, the temporary move-in. The first real crack showed up in the form of a text. I was in a 3 p.m. Zoom meeting when my Apple Watch buzzed. It was my mom. "Call me as soon as you can. Emergency." My stomach dropped. My mom doesn't use the word emergency lightly. The second my meeting ended, I called her. She answered on the first ring, voice already teary. "They're raising the rent again," she said. "We can't afford it, Rach. Not with your dad's hours getting cut. The landlord said if we can't sign a new lease at the higher rate by Friday, we're out." I took a breath. "Okay," I said. "How much is it?" She told me the number. It wasn't impossible, but it wasn't small either. "We just need a little help," she said. "Maybe you could loan us first and last month? We'll pay you back when your dad's hours go back up. Or," she paused. "Or," she continued, "we could move in with you, just for a little while, until we get back on our feet. We'd help with groceries. Your dad could fix that squeaky step. It'd actually be nice, like a real family home." My brain flashed images like a movie trailer. My mom's clutter in my kitchen. My dad's loud TV at 2 a.m. Zero privacy. My house full of tension. I couldn't escape by going home because this was home. But there was another image too. My parents on the streets. My mom's voice telling me, "We have nowhere to go." "Just for a few months?" I asked. "Until you figure something out?" "Of course," she said, a little too quickly. "We'd never take advantage." That was the first lie. They moved in 2 weeks later with 12 trash bags of clothes, 3 mismatched dressers, a TV older than I was, and what felt like half of their kitchen. My dad took the smallest bedroom. My mom took the second. I stayed in the primary and told myself this was temporary and that good daughters help. Crisis number 2, the family discount. Temporary became indefinite. The few months stretched into a year. They did not help with groceries. They did not fix the squeaky step. They did, however, eat my leftovers, complain about my work hours, and turn my guest room into a storage unit for stuff they refused to throw away. Every time I brought up moving out, my mom would clutch her chest. "You want to put your own parents on the street?" When I suggested they look for a cheaper one-bedroom nearby, she'd say, "Why waste money on rent when our family finally has a house? It's stupid to pay someone else's mortgage when you have space here. You're so blessed, Rach. Don't be selfish." Somewhere along the way, the language shifted. It stopped being your house and became the family home. I'd come home from 10-hour days at the agency, back-to-back calls, client crises, staying late to fix other people's mistakes, and walk into dirty dishes, TV blaring, my mom asking, "Can you Venmo me $60? I need to get my hair done for church on Sunday." If I hesitated, she'd say, "You make good money. You don't have kids. You can afford it." The math of my life was invisible to her. $1,500 mortgage, $600 in various loans and credit cards, groceries, utilities, car payment, and now, temporary, extra mouths to feed. I started doing what a lot of overworked, underappreciated women do. I told myself I was overreacting. At work, I was the rock star, the one the bosses trusted, the one who just gets things done. At home, I was the maid, bank, and peacekeeper. Crisis number 3, the brother-shaped black hole. Enter Ethan, again. He'd always been the charismatic one, smiled his way out of everything. In high school, he'd skip class and somehow get teachers to give him extra credit. As an adult, he bounced from job to job, bartender, entrepreneur, Uber driver, with the confidence of a man who believed someone else would catch him if he fell. That someone else was usually me. He started coming over more. At first, it was just for dinner. Then it was to crash on the couch after late nights. Then one day, my mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Don't be mad, okay?" she said, which is never a good sign. "Ethan's going to stay with us for a bit, just until he figures some things out with his landlord. He's going through a lot." "What happened with his landlord?" I asked. She looked guilty. "You know he's sensitive," she said, instead of answering. I later found out going through a lot meant hadn't paid rent in 3 months and got evicted. Suddenly, my 3-bedroom bungalow had 3 adults who did not pay for anything, 2 adults, me and my dad, who worked, and 1 person, me, whose credit was clean enough to be useful. I wish I could say I drew a boundary then. Instead, I did what I'd always done. I helped. The day I saw the numbers. What changed everything wasn't some huge dramatic event. It was a spreadsheet. I'm a project manager. Spreadsheets are how I make sense of chaos. One Sunday afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table, my mom on the couch scrolling Facebook, my dad asleep in the recliner, Ethan playing a game on his phone, and I opened my budgeting app. I pulled up the last 12 months, and for the first time, I really looked. Groceries that were supposed to be $400 a month were closer to $900. Utilities, once $150, were edging toward $300. Miscellaneous cash withdrawals were way higher than I remembered. I scrolled. There it was, line after line. $60 Cash App to Mom, prescription. $80 Venmo to Ethan, overdraft fee. $120 ATM withdrawal, car repair, for a car that wasn't mine. $250 Zelle transfer to Mom to help with bills. Over 12 months, I had given my family just over $7,000. $7,000. That was a used car. That was almost 5 student loan payments. That was a whole emergency fund for someone who didn't have 3 adults using her Costco membership like a free-for-all. I stared at the total, feeling my throat close up. I'd been telling myself it was a little here and there. It wasn't. It was a pattern, one I was complicit in. I closed my laptop. "We need to talk," I said. My mom muted the TV. "What's wrong, honey?" "I've been looking at my finances," I said. "I can't keep doing this. Groceries, utilities, random cash. It's too much. I need everyone to start paying something, even a little, just so it's not all on me." Silence. My dad shifted in his chair. Ethan paused his game, looked over with a smirk. "Damn, corporate," he said. "We just breathed too loud in your budget?" My mom's eyes filled instantly. "We're your family, Rachel," she said. "We thought we were welcome here." "You are," I said, my voice shaking. "But I can't keep being the only one paying for everything. I'm drowning. I'm working 50-hour weeks, and I still feel behind." She sniffed. "We didn't raise you to be selfish." There it was, the nuclear word, selfish. I tried again, softer. "You taught me to be responsible," I said. "I'm trying to be. Part of that is not letting my budget implode because I'm afraid to ask my own family to contribute." My dad stared at the TV. Ethan stood up. "You know what? I'll move out," he said. "I'm not going to live somewhere I'm not wanted." "That's not what I said." "We're trying," my mom cut in, voice rising. "Your father's hours got cut. I'm looking for something flexible. Ethan is figuring things out. You're the only one with a stable job. God blessed you so you could bless us." I realized in that moment that nothing I said in that room would change their narrative. I was the fixed point. They were the ones in motion. My job was to absorb the impact. So I stopped arguing. Out loud, at least. Inside, something small and crucial shifted. I didn't know it yet, but that was the day I started planning my exit. If this story were a movie, this is where there would be a montage of me getting stronger, setting boundaries, saying no, reclaiming my time. In real life, It was messier. I tried to draw lines. They moved them. I tried to say no. They cried. At work, my boss pulled me into bigger projects. "You're a natural leader," she said. "We want to put you up for promotion next quarter. It might come with more client-facing stuff, but also a bump in salary." Translation: more work, more expectations, more pressure, and more money that my family would see as extra. At home, my mom started making comments. "Must be nice getting bonuses," she'd say. "Your father never had those kinds of opportunities." "We did our best with what we had. You should be grateful." Grateful. As if gratitude and boundaries were mutually exclusive. The therapy appointment that cracked me open. One Thursday, after a particularly rough week of a client screaming on Zoom, my mother guilt-tripping me for not lending Ethan $500, and me crying in my car in the Target parking lot for no reason I could explain, my friend Jordan sent me a link. "I love you," she texted, "but you need therapy, and I mean that in the kindest way." The link was for an employee assistance program, 6 free counseling sessions. I scheduled one. The therapist, Dr. Patel, asked one simple question after I dumped my life story in her lap. "When did you learn that love and self-erasure were the same thing?" I laughed. "I don't erase myself," I said automatically. She looked at me, head tilted. "You just told me you regularly don't eat dinner until 10 p.m. because you're cooking for 3 adults who do not pay rent," she said gently. "You're working overtime to keep a house where you don't feel comfortable. You're lending money you don't have and then going without basic self-care to make up the difference. That sounds like erasure to me." I didn't cry in that session. I went home, opened my freezer, and stared at the frozen pizza I'd bought for myself that Ethan had eaten the night before. And then I sat on my bed and sobbed. Because somewhere between the grocery runs and Venmo requests and "you're so good with money," I had lost sight of something basic. I exist outside of what I do for other people. The almost surrender. Armed with therapy and a few new vocabulary words, enmeshment, parentification, boundaries, I decided to try again. I made a simple plan. Ask my parents to start paying $400 a month total, less than any rent they'd find. Ask Ethan to contribute $200, or make an agreement to move out by a certain date. Stick to my no when it came to random cash requests. The first conversation went medium. My mom cried. My dad said he'd see what he could do. Ethan ghosted me for a week and then left $60 cash on the counter like he'd just solved the national debt. But something was better than nothing. Then came the day I almost slid right back into the old pattern. It was a Friday. I'd just gotten my promotion. I came home with a knot in my stomach because I knew exactly how this conversation would go. Sure enough, my mom was at the kitchen table scrolling Zillow. "Oh, good, you're home," she said. "We were just talking about something exciting." I hung up my keys, heart already pounding. "What's that?" She turned a laptop toward me. On the screen was a listing, a bigger house in a nicer neighborhood, with a finished basement and a fenced yard. "This would be perfect for us," she said. "For the family. There's even room for when you have kids. Your dad and I could help with childcare. It's time to upgrade, don't you think?" "Mom," I said slowly, "I just got this house 2 years ago." "Exactly," she said. "Your equity must be amazing by now. We could sell this one, roll the money into that one, and refinance. With your credit, it would be easy. Our realtor friend said it's a great time to leverage what you have. We leverage what you have. I swallowed. I like my house, I said, and I don't want a bigger mortgage. She frowned. You're thinking small, she said. If we get something bigger now, we're all set for the future. We're not getting any younger, Rachel. We need somewhere to land, and you'll want help when you have kids. I opened my mouth to say, I don't even know if I want kids. But I saw the way she was looking at me, not as a person whose life was still unfolding, as a resource, a strategy. My dad walked in, wiping his hands on a dish towel. I told her it's up to you, he said. But it makes sense. You're only going to make more money from here. Might as well lock something in for the family. That night, I lay awake in my own bed and felt this terrible, familiar urge to surrender, to say, fine, you're right. I'll sell. I'll refinance. I'll give up my quiet mornings and my future flexibility so you don't have to face your own financial reality, because that would be easier in the short term. Raise your hand if you know that feeling, that tipping point where giving in feels safer than standing up for yourself. I was right there. And then my phone buzzed. It was a notification from my budgeting app. Warning, you are projected to run out of funds before your next paycheck. I stared at it. In that moment, the math and the emotion collided. I was working 50 to 60-hour weeks, managing 6 clients, absorbing stress that was aging me faster than any eye cream could fix. And I was still one crisis away from being broke. Why? Because 3 other adults had decided my hard work was their solution. I opened a blank note on my phone and wrote, I will not trade my entire future for their comfort. I didn't know how yet, but I knew I was done. And life, as if it had been waiting for me to reach that threshold, handed me the next piece of evidence 2 weeks later. It happened on a random Wednesday. I came home early because a client call got canceled. The house was quieter than usual. My parents' bedroom door was half open. I never went in there. It was an unspoken boundary. But as I walked down the hall, something on the dresser caught my eye. A manila folder with my name on it. Not handwritten, printed, in bold. Rachel Morgan, property. My pulse picked up. I shouldn't look, I thought. I looked. Inside were a printout of my mortgage statement, a Zillow estimate of my home's value, some online articles about using home equity, and a partially filled out document I didn't recognize at first. At the top, it said, Quit Claim Deed. Below that, in neat, unfamiliar handwriting, Grantor, Rachel Morgan, Grantee, East Side Family Holdings, LLC. My stomach dropped. Attached to the back was a printout of an email. As discussed, once the daughter signs, we can move forward with transferring title to the LLC and structuring cash-out refinance based on current appraised value. Given the lack of existing liens, there is significant equity to leverage. Happy to discuss next steps when you're ready. It was from someone named Mark Reynolds at a local investment firm. I heard the front door open. My heart jumped into my throat. I shoved the papers back in the folder, put it exactly where it had been, and stepped out of the room like nothing had happened. My mom called from the kitchen. Rach, that you? Yeah, I said, forcing my voice to sound normal. Just got home. All through dinner, I watched them. The way my dad avoided my eyes. The way my mom kept glancing at her phone. The way Ethan was extra nice, asking about my day, offering to clear the table. I smiled and nodded and answered. Inside, something went ice cold. They weren't just dreaming about a future house. They were actively planning a way to move my house out of my name into some LLC I'd never heard of without my knowledge. I didn't sleep that night. I Googled quitclaim deed until my eyes hurt. I learned that it's a way to transfer ownership of property without money changing hands. It requires the owner's signature. Shady people sometimes use it to trick family members into signing away rights they don't fully understand. The next morning, I called the only person I could think of who had ever mentioned a lawyer in a context that wasn't divorce. Jordan. I think my family is trying to steal my house, I said. She didn't laugh. She didn't say I was being dramatic. Okay, she said. Then we're going to talk to a real lawyer, not Google. That afternoon, on my lunch break, I sat in a quiet conference room at work and did a Zoom consultation with a real estate attorney named Angela Perez. I told her everything. The living situation, the money, the folder, the quitclaim deed. She listened, took notes, and finally said, "You're not crazy," she said. "You're also not alone. This happens more than you'd think." She explained my rights. The house was in my name only. No one could legally transfer it without my actual signature. If anyone tried to file forged documents, there would be legal consequences. I had the right to kick anyone out with proper notice, even family. Then she asked, "What do you want to happen?" I stared at the wall behind my laptop. What did I want? I wanted my house back. I wanted my money back. I wanted my family to not be the thing that kept me up at night. I want this to stop, I said finally. I want my home and my peace back. And I want them to face what they're doing without me cushioning everything. She nodded. Then we need a plan, she said. And you need to prepare for the fallout. Because once you stop playing the role they've assigned you, they're going to panic. Panic, I could handle. Losing my house, I could not. That day, sitting in that bland conference room, fluorescent lights humming, my Slack notifications pinging in the background, I made a decision. I would stop trying to convince them to treat me better. I would start protecting myself from who they were showing me they already were. Angela didn't just give me legal advice. She gave me a checklist. "You're in a better position than you think," she said. "You have clean title. You have proof you've paid everything. What you don't have yet is evidence of their intent. If they're really planning to try something, they'll leave a trail. Your job is to gather that trail and not tip your hand too early." So while my family went on assuming I was the same old Rachel, overworked, tired, desperate for their approval, I quietly became someone else. Someone who printed her bank statements and highlighted every loan to family, took photos of every sticky note they left with promises to pay you back Friday, swear, saved texts where they referenced the family house and we'll all benefit when you leverage it, and someone who did one more crucial thing. I upgraded my home security system. My family already knew about the doorbell camera. I'd gotten it when packages started disappearing from the porch. What they didn't know was that, on Angela's advice, I added a discrete camera in the kitchen, facing the island, not the bedrooms, a camera in the living room aimed at the coffee table, cloud storage, so even if someone tried to erase the feeds, it wouldn't matter. I told them, casually, that my insurance company required more security for a homeowner discount. They grumbled about privacy. "It's not pointed at your rooms," I said. "Just the common areas. It'll lower the premium." My mom rolled her eyes, but didn't argue too hard. "Whatever," she said. "You're the homeowner." I held on to that sentence like a lifeline. Step 1. Document the financial pattern. For the next 2 months, I stopped giving cash under the table. Everything was Venmo or Zelle with descriptions. Stopped saying, "It's fine," and started saying, "This is a loan. When can you repay it?" Saved screenshots every time they dodged repayment. I wasn't doing it to be petty. I was building a timeline. Angela helped me draft a simple roommate agreement, even though they were family. It laid out that they were guests in my home, that they had no ownership rights, that I could ask them to move out with 60 days' notice. They refused to sign. "We're not roommates, we're family," my mom said, offended. "Exactly," I said calmly. "So you shouldn't have any problem acknowledging that the house is mine." She stormed off, slamming her bedroom door. Angela told me to save that, too. "Their refusal to sign is actually evidence," she said. "It shows they're resisting acknowledging your ownership." Step 2. Listen more, react less. Once I stopped arguing, interesting things started happening. They talked more freely around me. They assumed my silence meant surrender. I'd sit at the kitchen table with my laptop open, headphones in, pretending to work while they had entire conversations about unlocking equity, putting the house in the LLC to protect it, making sure Rachel doesn't freak out when she sees the papers. One night, I heard my mom say, "We'll tell her it's for tax purposes. She doesn't understand that stuff anyway. She'll sign if we say it's to protect her." I have a minor in business. I understand tax stuff just fine. But let them underestimate me, I thought. Underestimation is a powerful blind spot. Step 3. The work trip. Angela's final step made my stomach twist. "They're circling something," she said, after I forwarded yet another email I'd accidentally seen on my mom's open laptop. "They're talking to people. They're using words like leverage and LLC. It's only a matter of time before they try to formalize this. When they do, we want them to be very sure you're not around." "Not around how?" I asked. "Physically," she said. "We need them to think you're out of town and unreachable. That's when people get bold, especially people who rely on you always showing up to fix things." So we created a fake work trip. I told my family my company was sending me to a conference in Chicago for a week. "It's a big deal," I said over dinner. "If it goes well, it could put me in line for a major promotion. I'll be gone from Sunday to Friday. Long days, late nights. I probably won't be able to check my phone much." My mom put down her fork. "A whole week?" she said. "Out of state?" "Yes," I said. "The company's paying. It's a good opportunity." My dad nodded, thoughtful. "Good for you," he said. "You've worked hard." Ethan smirked. "Guess the house will be ours for a while, huh?" He said it like a joke. I smiled tightly. "Try not to burn it down." The Saturday before my trip, I wheeled a suitcase out to my car. My mom hugged me a little too long. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "You always come through for this family. Don't forget that." I drove away. I did not go to Chicago. I checked into a modest Airbnb across town, 15 minutes from my house. I set up my laptop, pulled up the security feeds, and waited. Nothing happened Sunday. Nothing happened Monday. On Tuesday afternoon, I almost convinced myself I was paranoid. Then, at 6:13 p.m., my kitchen camera pinged my phone. Motion detected. I clicked the notification. There they were. My mom, in her nice sweatshirt. My dad, in a button-up shirt instead of his usual t-shirt. Ethan, hair brushed, wearing jeans without holes in them. With them was a fourth person, a man in a navy blazer with a leather briefcase. The camera caught his face clearly when he looked up to gesture at something. I took a screenshot. "That'll be Mark Reynolds," I muttered. They all gathered around the island. The man opened his briefcase and took out a stack of papers. I turned up the volume. "So, as we discussed," Mark said, "this deed will transfer title from your daughter's name into the LLC. Once that's filed with the county, we can move forward with the refinance and get you access to the equity." "She doesn't need to be here for this part?" my mom asked. "As long as we have her signature," he said. "And it looks like you've already prepared a sample?" He held up something I couldn't see. Ethan laughed. "She leaves her mail lying around all the time," he said. "We've seen her sign like a million things." My vision tunneled for a second. They'd been practicing my signature. "It just needs to be close enough that the clerk doesn't question it," Mark said. "Most filings go through without much scrutiny." I felt sick. At the same time, I felt oddly calm. They were doing exactly what Angela said they might. My mom picked up a pen. "Let's get this over with," she said. "We need that money. We're drowning here. And she'll benefit too, eventually." "To the family," my dad said. He clinked an invisible glass. I hit record on my screen. The camera zoom wasn't perfect, but it was enough. You could see my mother's hand moving in slow, careful strokes. You could see Ethan muttering, "Make the R more loopy. Hers is loopier." You could see Mark watching, not stopping them. When they finished, Mark gathered the papers. "I'll go file this first thing in the morning," he said. "Once it's recorded, you'll be official owners through the LLC. From there, we'll get an appraisal and talk next steps." "And she can't undo it?" my mom asked. "Not without a lawyer and a good reason," he said. "But she trusts you, right? Your family. She doesn't need to know all the details." In my Airbnb, I laughed. Not because it was funny, because that hollow, bitter sound was the only thing keeping me from screaming. I let them finish. Let them see him out. Let them toast over takeout Chinese in my living room, talking about how this is finally our break. Then I called Angela. "They did it," I said. "I have it on video." "Save it to 3 different places," she said. "Email it to me. Tomorrow, we're going to the county recorder as soon as they open." The legal counterstrike. At 8:15 the next morning, I walked into the Franklin County Recorder's office wearing my nicest blazer and my flattest shoes. Angela met me there with a coffee and a calm I envied. "Here's what we're going to do," she said. "We're going to check if anything has been recorded yet. If it has, we'll file an affidavit of fraud and start the process to void it. If it hasn't, we'll put a fraud alert and notice on your title so any suspicious filing triggers a flag. Then we're going to send a very strongly worded letter to Mr. Reynolds and your family." We went to the clerk. Angela did the talking. "We're checking on any recent filings related to parcel number." She read off my parcel number, she said. The clerk typed, paused. "Nothing recorded yet," she said. "Looks like there's a new deed received this morning, though. Not processed. It's in the queue." My skin prickled. We were right on time. Angela slid a stack of papers across the counter. "We'd like to submit this affidavit of suspected fraud and request a hold on recording," she said. "There's evidence the grantor's signature is forged and that the grantor never intended to transfer title." The clerk took the papers, scanned them, frowned. "We'll need to run this by the supervisor," she said. "Of course," Angela said. 20 tense minutes later, a supervisor came out. "We'll flag the deed," she said. "It won't be recorded until this is resolved. If you can provide the video you mentioned, that will help." I handed over a USB drive. I'd exported the footage at 2 a.m., labeling it Morgan House Forgery Evidence.mp4. As we left, Angela turned to me. "You did exactly the right thing," she said. "Now we get to choose how loud you want this to be." "How loud?" I asked. "We can keep it civil and quiet," she said. "Or we can involve law enforcement and your state's bar association for Mr. Reynolds. That won't be pretty for them." I thought about my mom's face as she signed, my brother's grin, the years of, "We're a family, you can't say no." "I'm done being quiet," I said. The confrontation. I didn't go home that night. I wanted the confrontation to happen with witnesses and legal backup, not in my kitchen where they could twist the story or scream me into submission. So Angela scheduled a meeting. We invited my parents, Ethan, Mr. Reynolds, a neutral mediator at Angela's office. We told them it was to clarify the future of the house and make sure everyone's on the same page. My mom showed up in her nice blouse. My dad wore a tie he hadn't touched in years. Ethan swaggered in like this was an annoyance. Mr. Reynolds looked nervous. We all sat around a conference table. Angela opened a folder. "Thank you all for coming," she said. "Before we begin, I need to state for the record that I represent Rachel Morgan, the sole legal owner of the property at," she read the address. "This meeting is being recorded." My mom frowned. "Is that necessary?" she asked. "Yes," Angela said smoothly. "Now, Rachel has some concerns about recent actions taken regarding her property. We're going to address them." She clicked a button. On the screen at the end of the room, the video from my kitchen started playing. My mom's hand, the pen, Mr. Reynolds' face. My mom gasped. "You can't! How did you—" "Those cameras are for my insurance," I said calmly. "You knew they were there." We all watched, in excruciating detail, as she signed my name, as Ethan coached her, as Mr. Reynolds advised them. When it ended, the room was silent except for my own heartbeat in my ears. Angela broke the silence. "This is attempted fraud," she said. "Specifically, attempted filing of a forged deed to unlawfully transfer property. If recorded, it would constitute theft. The recorder's office has been notified. The filing has been flagged and will not be processed at this time." My dad opened his mouth, closed it. My mom turned to me, eyes wild. "We were doing it for you," she said. "For the family. We were going to protect the house. You don't understand how any of this works." "I understand perfectly," I said. "You were trying to move my house into an LLC without telling me, so you could pull out the cash. You were planning to put debt on it that I would be responsible for." Ethan scoffed. "You're being dramatic," he said. "We would have cut you in. You live there too." "I own it," I said. "You live there because I let you." My mom's jaw tightened. "After everything we've sacrificed for you," she said, "you wouldn't even have gone to college if we hadn't taken out loans. We deserve some security. You're doing well. You can rebuild. We're too old to start over." I stared at her. "You sacrificed nothing," I said quietly. "You took loans in my name, used my credit, took my money, and then tried to take the only real asset I have because you don't want to face your own choices." She flinched. Mr. Reynolds cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should—" Angela turned to him. "As for you," she said, "Rachel will be filing a complaint with your firm and the state bar. You facilitated an attempted fraudulent transfer without verifying the grantor's participation. I suggest you retain your own counsel." He went pale. "I have to go," he said. He stood up and left the room. Ethan swore under his breath. My dad finally spoke. "What happens now?" he asked, sounding smaller than I'd ever heard him. Angela slid a stack of papers across the table. "Now," she said, "you move out." It was a formal 30-day notice to vacate for my parents, and a separate 7-day notice for Ethan, who wasn't on any lease and wasn't contributing. My mom exploded. "You're evicting your own parents?" she shouted. "Do you know what people will say? What will we tell the church? You can't do this to us." "You tried to steal my house," I said. "You gambled with my entire future without even asking me. Yes, I can do this." "We're your family," she sobbed. "And I'm your daughter," I said. "Not your retirement plan, not your bailout, not your escape hatch. I gave you chance after chance to be honest with me. You chose this." They threatened. They begged. They tried to negotiate. "What if we sign something saying we'll never touch the title again? What if we put your name on the LLC too?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "You need to find your own place. I'll give you 30 days. I'll pay for a moving truck. That's it." Angela added, voice firm, "If you attempt any further action regarding this property or retaliate against Rachel in any way, we will pursue criminal charges. The recorder's office has a copy of the video. So does my firm. This is not a bluff." They left in a storm of slammed doors and muttered curses. I sat in that conference room after they were gone and shook so hard my teeth chattered. Angela put a hand on my shoulder. "You did something very hard," she said. "It doesn't feel like it yet, but you protected yourself. That's huge." I nodded, tears finally spilling over. For the first time in my life, I hadn't folded. The next 30 days were the longest of my life. It wasn't neat or dignified. There were screaming matches, silent treatments, passive-aggressive Facebook post from my mom about kids these days forgetting who raised them. At one point, my mom left a stack of printed Bible verses on my bed, all about honoring your parents. I left them there. I bought moving boxes. I scheduled the truck. I helped them carry out the same dressers we'd moved into that rental house in Dayton decades before. My dad wouldn't meet my eyes. My mom kept saying, "You'll regret this when we're gone." I didn't fight, because this part wasn't about convincing them of anything. It was about following through. Ethan moved in with a friend across town. My parents found a small apartment closer to my aunt. They told the extended family whatever story made them feel better. Some relatives reached out to scold me. "Family is everything," one cousin texted. "You're being heartless." I replied once. "Family is everything until they try to steal your house," I wrote. "Then they're just people who made bad choices." I blocked anyone who tried to argue after that. It wasn't about winning PR anymore. It was about peace. The quiet after the storm. When the last box was gone and the house was finally, blessedly empty, I stood in the middle of my living room and listened. Silence. No TV, no sighing. No footsteps I couldn't control. Just my own breathing. It felt wrong at first. Then it felt like oxygen. I spent the next few weekends deep cleaning, repainting the guest rooms, taking long baths without feeling like I was wasting hot water. I met with Dr. Patel weekly. We unpacked all of it. The guilt, the old belief that good daughters sacrifice everything, the grief of losing not just people, but a version of family I'd clung to my whole life. "You didn't break your family," she said once, when I was blaming myself again. "They broke trust. You responded." I got on a real budget, started paying extra on my student loans, opened a high-yield savings account literally labeled, "For me, not them." Work got better too, not because it got easier, but because I stopped expecting my job to make up for the emotional hole my family had left. It was just a job, not my whole identity. I started doing little things I'd always told myself I couldn't afford. A pottery class once a week, dinner out with friends without checking my parents' needs first, a weekend trip to Chicago, this time for real, no lies, where I sat by the lake and realized I didn't have to ask anyone's permission to just exist. What happened to them? People always want to know. Did your parents ever apologize? Did things ever get better? Do you talk to them now? Here's the complicated truth. My parents did not apologize in any way that acknowledged what they'd actually done. They apologized for how it all blew up and everyone getting hurt, but not for the planning, the secrecy, the entitlement. They still believe, on some level, that I overreacted. We talk occasionally about surface things. I don't lend them money. I will never put my name on anything for them again. Ethan posts photos with his new crypto buddies and occasionally likes my Instagram stories. We are cordial. Do I love them? Yes. Do I trust them? No. And those two things are allowed to coexist. My message to you, if you're watching this because you typed something into YouTube like family using me for money, overworked daughter supporting parents, how to set boundaries without being a monster, I need you to hear this part clearly. You are not evil for protecting yourself. You are not selfish for wanting a life that isn't built entirely on other people's bad decisions. You can love your family and still say, "No, you cannot have access to my paycheck. No, you cannot live in my house for free forever. No, you cannot put me on the hook for your debts." Love that requires you to erase yourself is not love. It is control dressed up as gratitude. I spent years thinking, if I just work a little harder, make a little more, say yes one more time, eventually they'll feel safe enough to stop asking. They never did. The moment I stopped was the moment I realized I am allowed to choose myself, not just once, but over and over. So if you're the Rachel of your family, the responsible one, the overachiever, the emotional support human, and the bank of last resort, this is your sign. Your exhaustion is real. Your resentment is information. Your future is worth protecting. You do not have to wait until someone tries to steal your house to draw the line. You're allowed to say, "I love you. I'm done funding your choices." You're allowed to move out. You're allowed to make them move out. You're allowed to keep what you worked for. And if no one has told you this yet, you are not just a safety net. You are a whole person. And you deserve a life that doesn't require you to disappear so everyone else can breathe.